So obviously that was something that I couldn't do. So I remember not saying much because I was in total shock, and pushing my daughter in her buggy back to the home, to the family home. And I remember walking in, and his sister looked at me, and the way she looked at me, I knew immediately that she knew. And she turned to me and she said, "What's wrong?" Because I was crying, and she said, "Did he tell you?" And she said for her and his mum, it was very hard for them because they had grown to love me, but they have also been told something that is very dire and that they know will and could possibly break up what we have as a happy home. And they knew a week before I knew. And she said she found it so hard because she felt as if she wanted to tell me, but then at the same time, she didn't want to make her brother's life easier. She didn't want to do his day work, and neither did the mum. Hence why he took me to the fun fair to tell me about the passer. From there, I spiraled emotionally. For those of you who haven't had a child, or for those of you who have, when you have a child, when a woman has a child, her emotions are all over the place. She's coming to terms with her new body. She's coming to terms with her new baby. She's coming to terms with the hormone levels, the hormone changes within her body. So there's a lot of things going on. Milk's being produced. So many different things are going on within her body. And for me, that, along with what I was being told, was very dramatic for me. How I dealt with it was not the right way, but this is how I chose to deal with it. I locked myself down. I literally threw myself into my daughter because I believed that I had failed her. I mean, I waited 7 years to have this child, and now I've had her. Even though I haven't created this situation, I have kind of aided it in some way to have happened, and I felt like I was a failure to her. I didn't want anyone to touch her. I didn't want anyone to breathe on her near enough, and lock myself away in the room. And I dropped immensely in weight. I mean, I was 16 stones when I came out of the hospital, and by the time my daughter was a month old, I was 11 stone. I would see food and want to eat it, but can't because I'm filled up already with emotion. I really shut down. In all honesty, I have to be honest, because I had put 100% trust in this man. And to put 100% trust in someone is a big deal anyway. But to put 100% trust in somebody that hasn't got your back, that hasn't got the best intention for you or for the love that you're giving them, is a dramatic thing. And for me, I was learning this and learning it very quickly. Unfortunately for me, the person that I was with was upset with his family for not taking his side, and felt that they should really be listening to him. Sorry, just scratching my leg. But yeah, they felt that he felt that they weren't seeing his point of view, and his point of view was that, he has done something wrong, but why are you all sticking up for Tasha? And this changed the dynamics in the house. This really caused a divide, as in myself, his mum and his sister were, joint in how we felt, and felt that he had done something wrong, and his attitude was very wrong and strong, and I did that, and so and that destroyed me even more, because I think when you've been cheated on, if the person has some sort of remorse for what they've done, or they feel sorry for what they've done, it doesn't instantly make it feel better, but it does help and help you to mend yourself, because that's what you have to do once you've been cheated on. You've been broken, and now you need to mend yourself. And for me, it was hard to do that, seeing him very wrong and strong in this heartbreak. And it caused a lot of ruckus because I was still living there, and obviously he wanted to still be a part of the other girl's pregnancy, which was becoming difficult. But he decided, and I mean, at that point we weren't together. As I said, we broke up just before I had my daughter. But it was hard watching this man that I had given my all to, and now he not only has he cheated, but he is going through another pregnancy with somebody else. Now, I mean, at 7 years with somebody, living with them for 6 of those 7 years, you kind of feel like this isn't really happening. This must be a show, and you're watching yourself. It actually happens in slow motion. It's really, really weird. And it was just destroying, in honesty, because I feel that if it had happened at another point of time where I wasn't pregnant, maybe I would have dealt with it a lot differently. I might have processed it a lot differently. But being that I was at a pinnacle time of change within myself, to have to deal with that situation as well was just crazy. I ain't gonna lie, it was crazy. It was the most craziest situation I can recall, and I'm now 32. So, at that time, it just got crazy in the house, and I decided to leave, and I moved within a month. I moved and I found a property, and I decided that I'm going to do this, and just give my all to my daughter and move on. And I think, if anything, if I can just put it out there, for me, I was brought up in the church. I was brought up to know God and to love God. And I mean, like I always say, I'm not here to Bible bash. I'm not here to throw my religion on anyone else. But what I will do is I will make my religion and my love for God known. And for those of you who are spiritual, for those of you who are religious, and even if you just listen, just hear what I have to say on this note. For me, being taught to know God and to love God, I had forgotten God, and I had given my love in all ways to a man. And God is a jealous God, and that is not okay. And that was part of my my fallen moment, where my fall from grace, where I really lost myself and became consumed with a man because I loved him. And now, at this age, I know that that is not the right way of loving somebody. If it consumes you and you're no longer able to catch your breath and see yourself, and they are above you and also above God, then it's not the right relationship. I can honestly say that it is something toxic, in a sense, because I feel that you should be able to love yourself and love somebody and love God. I don't feel that you have to do one or the other. I feel that they, literally, God's here, you're here, and so's the person, God above all. And definitely I had forgotten who I was, what I've been taught, and I feel that was my moment, that I was taught that you're going to know yourself, and you're going to learn that going out there, forcing yourself in situations, because you see, sometimes when God sees that you're going to wreck yourself, he will wreck your plans. And at the time, I felt like that, why did this happen? This shouldn't have happened. This was my fairy tale, and, that was, my time to shine, my time of happiness. But if you go back to the stages of before I had moved out, how I dealt with my mum, how I dealt with my grandmother, how I dealt with my whole attitude as a teenager, thinking that I know everything and being forthright, because that's really what I was. I was putting myself out there when I didn't have no business being out there. Why am I out there paying big people's bills and shack up with man? Like, that's not cool. And I had to learn. And for me, that whole moment was a learning curve. And if I can't take that at least from the situation, then I deserve for it to happen to me again. And the point of me answering that young woman's situation and putting myself out here and being vulnerable and telling you lot how I dealt with it and the things that happened to me and, you know, what I did wrong is a point to be made that don't do what I did. Learn from what I did. And if you see somebody else in that situation or going in that situation, give them that hand and say, you know, oh, I know somebody, or I've heard somebody in a similar situation. This is what I did. I'm putting this out there and I'm putting my vulnerability out there for it to help someone, or for you to hear what has happened to me and grasp some form of a lesson from it. And like I said, I want this to be an open forum that people can relate to, that people can you know, connect with and grow with. And I keep on using that word, growth, because if we're not learning from the situations that we're into, whether they're good or bad, then we deserve to either lose those good situations or we deserve to be put back in those bad situations, in all honesty. And yeah, to that young lady, I hope I gave, you know, my account of what was one of the, you know, pinnacle moments for me in my young adulthood, and that definitely was one of them. And I can honestly say that I've learned, I've grown, I know who I am, and I know for my daughter or my children to come, more children to come beyond her, I know that I would stand firm in my parenting and not allow my child to go out there, because too much freedom for a child is bad as well. That's another thing I've learned from it. I feel that sometimes when you let your kids stay out playing for too long, or you let your child just roam the streets or have boyfriends too early, all those things they are a part of freedom that sometimes when you give them to a child, they're not able, if they're not mature yet, they're not able to digest them in the right way. And I didn't, and I will openly say that I didn't digest them in the right way. So I know for next time, or I know if I see that, if my godchildren or nieces or nephews or cousins come into this, I recognize it. You know, if you see something happening that you recognize, I feel that it's part of your duty to, you know, try and change it or stop it, break the chain. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, and I hope that I gave you something different than how you came before you actually watched my channel. And God bless you all, and keep those emails coming. And my next video will be a situation that a young gentleman has emailed me that I think you will all find very interesting. But yeah, God bless, and thanks for watching.